Hi, I'm Damião. I'm a pro wrestler from Portugal, and you're watching CCP Podcast.
What is happening, friends of CCP Podcasting? Welcome back to Beyond the Bell. I am Chris Page. That is John Cable. What is happening, my man? How are things going with you, sir?
Going well, having a good day today, and I am excited about this one.
I am too. This is, when we started our platform and really started diving into the independents about a year and a half ago, I never would have thought that it would take us on the journey that it's taken us on and being able to talk to as many people as we've been able to talk to and really have a good time discussing professional wrestling and everything that goes along with it. This conversation today, it literally happened because of our audience. Over on Inside the Indies, we sat down, we watched an Emerge show just randomly out of the blue. Friend of the channel, Max Stone, in chat like he usually is, watching the show, and had some channel points when he saw our guest today and cashed them in, and for very good reason. It was very entertaining. The match that we saw initially was insanely good, and it dove into a spotlight show. Without further ado, I want to bring on and very pleased to welcome to Beyond the Bell none other than Mr. Sam Beale. What is happening, Mr. Beale? How are you, sir?
Yo, what's up, guys? How are you? I'm doing great today. I'm excited to be here and talk about a little bit of wrestling, talk about me, talk about you guys, figure it all out.
Yeah, man, it's funny. We were talking a little bit before we came on the air. It's just interesting how wrestling brings people together if you let it bring people together, and that's exactly what's happened here. And I couldn't be happier for it. I was ecstatic when we were able to set this up, and a large part outside of just wanting to pick your brain. I know that our buddy Max is going to have a come apart when he sees this, because it is literally because and I say this because he cashed in his channel points and said, I want to see more of him. So that is nothing more than a testament to you and what we saw that day, and literally, touching the audience to want to see more. So again, the thanks is to you for coming on, because without what you guys do on a regular, A, we don't have anything to watch, and then and B, where's the fun in that? So it's I'm just stoked to have you.
First off, I definitely want to say thank you to Max. It's pretty awesome that he cashed in his hard earned points to make even this happen, and then also that spotlight show. I'll never that's one of the cooler moments in my career alone was when I stumbled upon you guys on social media talking about doing a spotlight show for me. I remember I was literally at a rep on the road, and I was like, looked at my wife, and I was like, I didn't know anything about this. Like, did somebody reach out to me or anything like that? No, you guys just kind of took your own time and watched some of my matches and spotlighted me in my career, which is still just, it's super cool, super surreal for me, and an awesome thing. So thank you.
No, man, it's all thanks to you, John. Welcome our guest today, bud.
Hello, sir. And no, it is absolutely a testament to you that, in the course of us doing what we do, we stumbled upon you, and one of our fans was like, "Hey, no, that was cool. We need more of it. Take my money." And it was like, "Yeah, absolutely. We'll go dive into that for sure." We were entertained. And again, like he said, thank you for doing what you do. You got it's, being in the business is really hard, and a lot of people don't know the sacrifices that go into it, and we just like to talk about it. It's a nostalgic trip for us to relive being in the locker rooms and being part of the show and doing the thing, and now we've got an opportunity now, in the course of our channel, to be able to go explore the things that we want to look at, and this trip into the indies for us has been insanely crazy. But it's because of people like you doing what you do out there and entertaining the masses the way that you do that gives us something to look at and enjoy. And if it wasn't for guys like you, we wouldn't have anything. We'd just be sitting here bored, wondering what's next. And that's what we look for. We stumbled on you, and along with a lot of other talents out there, we think that you are definitely a part of what is the best of what's coming for wrestling.
I really appreciate that. And I mean, like you said, I want to ask you guys a question real quick. Or have you guys both been a part of the business? Have you guys
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, my day
guys
was
understand.
in '99, and I think I was
Yeah, it
out.
was early 2000s
Yeah,
for me.
yeah. I'm an old guy. I'm the get off my lawn guy. I just don't look it
Yep.
from here. Let me just tell you that. Yeah, I worked the independent circuit in Alabama, a little bit in Florida, way back in the day, and John was active in Jacksonville area for a hot minute. So when we say
Florida,
that
Georgia.
we look for things, we look for different things and different. When we're watching all this independent wrestling and we're consuming it, we just have a different eye, like and you don't know unless you've been there, but it's just refreshing to see when we come across what we see, what we feel is just really good stuff, and whether it be character work or whether it be in-ring work. And again, going back to the Emerge show, the beautiful thing about that one, not only did it turn us on to you, it turned us on to several other people that were attached to that we haven't seen before. It doesn't mean that you guys haven't been out there killing it. It just means that I hadn't seen enough of it, and it makes me want to go see more. And that means that at least to me, that you're doing your job, and it's refreshing. And then when you see you take in what's going on internationally as well. Yeah, this is a number one, a booming industry right now, and to be in a spot where everybody wants a contract, I understand that's validation, but where we are with the indies, you don't necessarily need one of those right now. You can go out there and make it happen. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. Like you said, the industry is at its height, I think, truthfully.
I
I mean,
agree.
yeah.
I think we're seeing the second full resurgence of the heyday.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Because I mean, you look at it, even look at WWE, right? Like they just got a new deal with Netflix. That's booming. Everybody's talking about. I mean, AEW is still kind of climbing the ranks. Like, aren't they? Pretty sure they're getting new TV deals here. And the TNA, who's skyrocketing too. NWA, they're popping off as well. Like it's just numerous. All these big companies are and going well. But then you also have a lot of the other indies like AAW, Sling Revolver, or there's just so many different companies that are really booming right now, and it's because of the wrestlers and the fans and just the overall popularity of wrestling. People want to watch wrestling nowadays, and it is an incredible thing. Compared to what it was even when I just started back 8 years ago. So it is an awesome time to be a wrestler and a wrestling fan and just be a part of the business. Great.
So, being that this is a very interesting time in the industry, how did you get involved in your first training academy, or what was the thing for you as young Sam? Who were your heroes, and how did you decide that this was going to be your career avenue?
So, as far as getting into the business, it's actually kind of a little bit crazy. I grew up being when I was younger. My brother and I, we would watch wrestling, like Stone Cold, and when Hulk Hogan used to be the Mr. USA, John Cena, Jeff Hardy, all of those back in the early 2000s. We were super big fans, but then when my brother grew out of it, I kind of grew out of it too. So I just didn't like it as much because my big brother was like my role model, so I kind of followed in whatever his footsteps were. But I kind of lost a little bit of fandom in my early or late elementary into early junior high. Only kind of to circle the wagon back when I got to high school, right? And I was a super big fan back in high school, my sophomore year of high school. I went over to my buddy's house one day, and he was sitting in his room just watching wrestling. It was actually my buddy's house. I went over and saw his brother. So, long story short, the guy I got into wrestling with, I was more friends with his brother before, and then once I found or saw him watching wrestling, I decided, I screw it. Like I'm best friends with him now. So, but yeah, I saw him watching wrestling. It was kind of like the build up to WrestleMania 30, like the Daniel Bryan storyline, and it was just so attached to every single thing they were doing. Like all of it, right? Cesaro and Jack Swagger were the real Americans, and obviously the Daniel Bryan was just right. And then from that point forward, I was a fan. I watched every Monday, I watched every Friday or Thursday, whatever it may be. They switch it so much, but any pay-per-view, anything like that, we just always meet up. We'd always meet up and watch everything together. And we even created our own little wrestling promotions. We would play with action figures, do GM mode on the video games. The whole big super fan. That's what I was. I mean, that's what I was growing up through high school. I would legitimately skip out on parties and going out with my other friends and drinking and doing all the stuff that high schoolers do. Didn't say that. We all live it through.
We could keep it real. It's fun.
Hey,
We've all done it. But I would skip out on going to parties and whatnot to stay at home and play with action figures and watch wrestling. Like that's what I would do in high school. And it was my life, I guess, of being a fan. But it never crossed my mind the whole entire time. Like, oh, I want to be a professional wrestler. Not once. I never dreamed of it. I never thought about doing it, anything like that. It wasn't until my freshman year of college. I was at work one day, and when I worked freshman year of college, I was a landscaper, like for my high school. Mm-hmm. So there was a little bit of downtime. There was time when I was in between lawns that I would just sit on my phone and watch anything, right? So this particular time, I was watching a documentary about Seth Rollins, his redesign, rebuild, reclaim documentary, which is an awesome thing.
It's a good one.
So I would definitely recommend for you guys to go watch it if you haven't. But yeah, I remember sitting there watching it, and he was just doing the same things that I was doing in high school. Wrestling on the trampoline, playing the video games, and playing with action figures and stuff like that. And it was just like, man, I want to do this. Like this is what I want to do. So I started kind of poking at the idea and looking at like what kind of training schools were in my area, and there just wasn't anything. Like there was nothing in the Toledo, Ohio area, and I just couldn't fathom driving like 3 to 4 hours away to go to a school or training school while I was already in college. So I kind of almost gave up. And then one last try, I looked on Google and just kind of said training schools in Toledo, Ohio, and randomly stumbled upon like a Wikipedia page that brought up a bunch. And there was one that was actually located next to my hometown in Perrysburg, Ohio. It was called Northwest Ohio Wrestling, and I went and checked it out. And to say it was a good training spot, I can't really say that, but it was something to get my foot in the door, and that's really all I needed, right? So I went through numerous different head trainers and people who trained me and things like that, but it really ultimately worked as a spot to get my foot in the door, like I said, and then I kind of did the rest and broke through in that regard. But yeah, it was a very unorthodox kind of way to get into the business, but I did it, and I'm here, and I've made a lot of great connections. I met a lot of different people, so the rest is history after that.
That's the deal. You said a couple of things. First thing I want to touch on within the whole statement, when you talk about Daniel Bryan and WrestleMania 30, the first thing that popped in my head was wrestling can be so good when the story's organic. And you talk about an organic story, and that's one to really hook yourself on. That's a good one. The second thing that you touched on is, maybe the school wasn't the best. Man, I wish I had Google back in my day, because it would have made life so much easier. Other than showing up randomly at shows, hey, who can I talk to about getting into this? Hey, can I
See,
train with you?
at
Hey,
least you even had the inkling that you could go ask
yeah.
people. I didn't either. Like you said, I didn't think at any point in my younger days that would be what I wanted to do. And then I went to an ECW show and found a flyer on my car for a school here in town. And that was how I even found out that there was a school here. Not to mention that there were multiple schools here, but that I found out that there was any company here doing independent wrestling. I didn't even imagine that because that didn't exist then.
No, yeah, I completely agree. Like before, like I said before we started taping, like I had no idea what independent wrestling was. I knew of Ring of Honor and I knew of TNA and I knew of WWE because I watched WWE all the time. Jeff Hardy went to TNA, so I knew of that because Jeff Hardy was one of my favorites. And then I knew of Ring of Honor because when I would go out to Denny's with my buddies after football games, it'd be on the TV and you'd watch it. Those are the only three things I knew of. I didn't watch anything of the others like Ring of Honor or TNA back in the day. I just watched WWE, and like now that I'm in here and I'm in the business, when I first started in 2016, it was like, oh, you look every other corner. There's an independent show running. You know,
And so you know where
Yeah,
they're at. You don't
that
know
is
they're there.
that is right in my opinion. Late 2015, the start of 2016 is when the indies really started to boom again. Like that's when it started. It didn't hit that cusp just yet, but the momentum was starting to build.
maybe it was because maybe it's because I joined the business. I'm just.
No, I mean, listen, the perm is a thing, dude. That draws so many people in. The mullet with I'm telling you, there's something to that. I would not apologize for that statement.
Yeah, hey, it's a lot. It's good eye candy. Everybody, I walk in the door, and it doesn't matter where I'm walking into. It could be a restaurant, the gym, a library. People notice. People notice, and I know they notice, and it's okay.
Yeah, no shit. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I dropped the first cuss word. My bad. When you were talking about training or in your earlier years, the beautiful thing about wrestling, at least in my opinion, and now more prevalent now, is that learning never stops. Is that there are so many different schools out there that just because the biggest misconception, like when we talk to a lot of younger guys, and when I mean younger guys, I mean like, you know, early 20s, really just getting into the business. Like I always tell them, education is everything. Don't think that just because you go through one school doesn't mean you can't go through another, and it doesn't mean that you can't go through another. Because what one person teaches you, someone else is going to teach you something totally different, and someone else is going to teach you something. That's how you can really hone in on your craft. Is that something that you found as you were getting started that maybe you took advantage of, or was that even on your radar at the time?
Yeah.
How did that play out? That's interesting.
No, yeah, 100%. So I think I've had a lot of hands in my basket. I guess like there has been so many different people that have taught me one thing or another, which I really take to heart, and it really has helped me. I think when I first started at Northwest Ohio Wrestling, like I said, there were so many different head trainers that would come in for a week and then teach us this, and leave, and then come back in. And I don't know if that was because of them just having a butting of heads with the office of the training school or what. But it really did mold me and help me a lot. Unfortunately, for like the 2 or 3 years that I was at the NOW show or NOW training school, I kind of got it in my head like I was already trained, right? So I didn't have to go back to training or learn from anything else. I thought that my learning now came from going on the road or working in front of a crowd. It wasn't until like late 18, early 2019 where I joined I credit my head trainer. His name is CK3 or Crimson.
Yeah.
He trained me at NOW. He like kind of got me into getting my first practice matches and whatnot. And when NOW kind of faltered and went under, There was no training school, so I stopped going to a training school. But CK3, he opened up his own school here, and he gave me. He was like, "Hey, come on, come back, come train with us here at Skull and Bones and everything like that." And I was hesitant to do that because it was expensive for being a college student who didn't really have a high paying job. Like I was like, well, I already did training, so why do I have to keep paying for more training? And if I could go back, I'd smack myself upside the head because it's like I needed it, and obviously it shows because I would credit me joining Skull and Bones to like I'd credit it for everything that I've done because it kind of helped me jump the hurdle of being kind of a very, I guess not I don't know if I would say stale, but more stagnant, a very stagnant wrestler who just wrestled here and there over the months. But like once I joined Skull and Bones, I started to evolve a lot more, and I got more connections, and and like you said, the training doesn't end there, right? Like once I even joined Skull and Bones, like, I'm learning a lot from CK, and I'm learning a lot from Trey. But with that means going on the road with Trey and learning from some of the people that he learned from, some of the higher upper echelon people. Like Trey and I would train with Alex Shelly, and everybody knows Alex Shelly. Like Alex Shelly is one of the best in the world. So being able to, have that kind of tutelage is incredible, and it's something that I will always tell all the young wrestlers, right? Never stop learning. Never stop asking questions, no matter how far you get. Like I'm 8 years in. I mean, it's not that long of a time, but it's a decently long time. But I'm still asking everybody and anybody. It could be somebody who's been in for a year or so, or who's been in, in the business for 15 to 20 years. I wanted to ask them if they watched my match and if they saw anything I should do differently. Because truthfully, everybody has their own way of wrestling. It's great to pick the brains of everybody. So.
Yeah,
No,
nobody
that is
has.
absolutely
Yeah,
true.
nobody has the same eye. Everybody, again, it's one of the things. Everybody looks for something different. I think that's a piece of what's beautiful about the business. In a way, is because there's no such thing as perfect. I mean, unless you're Kurt Hennig, and that's a whole nother conversation. Would you say? Well, I guess what leads me to the next question is, as you're coming up and you're really honing in and really starting to line in on these things. When was the moment that it clicked for you? And what I mean by that is, it could have been during a training, it could have been in the ring, it could have been something. When was the moment that you realized that, all right, I got this now I understand why I went through all this training, why I went through all these different, why I put myself through all these different things, made the sacrifices that I made. When did that moment hit for you that I got this?
I feel like there's not really there are some moments that I can kind of think of that like really did like kind of flip the switch, I guess you could say. But I mean, I'm gonna have 15 more of those moments throughout my career. It's like, oh man, like I'm really understanding it, right? And like I guess I could give you 3 examples. But before I do that, like the better analogy I would say instead of like a light switch, because a light switch is almost like it's one time, right? And then it kind of figures out. What I kind of look at it as is like like you're staring at a brick wall, right? And behind that brick wall is a light. Is like a shining light that is a metaphor for like your success and kind of figuring it out, I would say. And like I feel like each of those moments that we're talking about is like you punch one of the bricks through and you can kind of see a little ray of light shine through it. And obviously, like I said, there's going to be 15 to 20 more of those. So I don't think I'll ever be able to break the whole wall down. I don't think anybody ever will, because we're all going to have those moments. But I would say one of the first moments was before all of the mullet and before the hair. I was wrestling at a show up in Detroit, Michigan, XICW. It was, I believe, I was wrestling a guy named Aaron Orion, and I remember going into this match like he was a big name up in Michigan and everything like that. So like it was a little nerve wracking going in, and I held my own with one of the best in Michigan, and I put a lot of smiles on faces. So it was kind of like okay, I can do this. Like this is something that I am very capable of making happen. And then I'll say another one was it actually came at a lower point. It was it's a mistake of mine because I feel like one of the best things or best ways to actually learn and kind of evolve is failing. So there was a moment when I had a match against Trey Miguel, who is my trainer. It was for Ruthless Pro Wrestling. It was during COVID, so it was like a closed set taping. I made a very, very crucial mistake, and it was he was very unhappy by it. And, he let me have it, like as any trainer and coach should, and kind of told me what I did wrong and whatnot. But afterwards, he looked me in the eyes and he said, "Sam, you are too damn good to make this mistake." He was like, "You were going to be a world champion someday." He's like, I know how you feel right now. And he's like, but understand this, like, earned and gained more of my respect today than you could have ever. And it was just like, it was a really cool moment for me. I guess not a really cool moment because I'm a very much a perfectionist and I hate doing anything wrong. So it was one of those moments, like in the heat of the moment, I really was very upset. But looking back on it, like 4 or 5 years ago, like I can look at it as a good learning tool, a good learning experience. And then I would say the final, like kind of last hurrah, but the last kind of one of those moments would be when I was at Impact or TNA when back in 2021. I remember I was going out to, I believe it was to wrestle Kojima and Jake something with Brian Myers. It was very nerve wracking. I'm telling you, you could probably see the imprint of my heart through my chest. It was that nerve wracking. And one of my better friends that I made when I was at Impact, Chris Bay, like kind of could tell that I was uneasy, kind of feeling a little certain type of way. And he looked at me. He goes up to me. He's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I'm just nervous. I don't know. I'm just so nervous." He looked at me. He's like, "You do this, dude. You do this shit." He's like, don't ever second guess yourself. Be confident in what you do. Go out there, own it. This is what you do." And every single time I get nervous before a match, like obviously you can't just get rid of the nerves, but I always remind myself of that moment where I'm like, I do this shit. Like this is the shit that I do, and I'm made for it. So it really is. Like I said, like there's going to be more moments, but those are the 3 that I'd like, I guess, for right now. But eventually I'll have some more along the way, and hopefully it's even bigger scale along the way.
Go ahead, John.
Well, there was definitely a work shift around that 2019 space in your career when you branched out and you not just doubled but like tripled your work rate for the year. And then not shortly after that, you've got over 50 matches in 1 year, including more than possibly 9 matches in October in 2021. Which is ridiculous to pull more than 2 matches a week in a holiday month for anybody, let alone somebody that's just in the first few years of the career. So the shift is definitely real. What was it for you personally, not just in the training mode or whatever that pushed you to go from maybe 1 show a month or 2 shows a month to full time? Let's get this done, and this is what I'm doing. Where was that shift for you, and how did that affect your life with college and working and things like that?
Yeah, so I would definitely think that I would credit it to a lot to Skull and Bones. I was when I joined Skull and Bones and was able to kind of be under the tree of Trey and CK. Like they reminded me almost every single day, like, Sam, you have the potential to be something special, right? And in that, when they put that into my head and my heart, like there was no stopping for me. And then there isn't, even to this day. Like right? Like, so back 2019, when I did join Skull and Bones, like since that day that I started to believe in myself because Trey and CK believed in me, like I turned it up a notch. Everything I do, like every single day, even today, like I am doing everything that I can to be the best performer, best wrestler, best entertainer, best everything that I can be for wrestling, right? Whether it be the way I eat, the way I watch wrestling, the way I lift, you know, reaching out to different companies so I can keep training and wrestling and doing all that stuff. It is my top priority. My dad reminded me as well back then, was like he saw something special in me as well, and he used to be an old race car driver for like sprint on dirt, so sprint car driver. Never made it to like NASCAR or anything, but like more local to Toledo. My dad was really good, so was my grandpa. Um, and the one thing that he always kind of regrets was he never put his all of his eggs in that basket. All right, so he would spread it out to bowling or softball or this or that. And that's one thing that he kind of saw me doing because I would play flag football or I'd play softball or I would, do all these various different things. And then wrestling was there as well. But I never put all of my eggs in that basket. He just reminded me. He was like, if you truly want this, like you really have to give it your all. And that's something that that ever since that those kind of moments, like I'm doing it, and it's something that I take a lot of pride in.
It definitely shows in the schedule change, right in that break in your career for sure, because you went from like I'm kind of a wrestler to I'm doing this full time as the poster child of I'm a full time wrestler.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a lot. And I think the thing that you guys have kind of alluded on earlier is there is a lot of sacrificing when you're doing this.
Absolutely.
You don't have weekends. You don't have weekends. You don't get to go to birthday parties. You get to miss weddings. There's just so many different things that you have to put wrestling first if you truly want to make it. And it's an ever going topic that I have with my wife a lot. Like we she I don't expect her to get it, and I don't want her to understand it, but it's just something that she needs to just trust me. And if I can't go to this birthday party or if I can't go to this wedding, it's because I truly think that this is a huge opportunity for me in terms of being a wrestler. So it is, like I said, she is the most supportive person in the world, but she doesn't quite understand that, and it's something that she I don't expect her to either. So
I don't know that anybody that doesn't do the sacrificing themselves really ever does get it, but the fact that you have a good support system is awesome.
oh yeah, it's incredible. Like she loves wrestling. Obviously because I do it, but not like she's just very proud of me and kind of all the things that I have accomplished. I remember the first time I was on TNA or Impact back when I was there. She threw together a big surprise party for my friends and I to watch it at our living room, and it was pretty cool. So she's just
How
super
was
proud
that?
of me.
That's
Yeah.
gotta be surreal, right?
Let's see.
Yeah, it is.
Walk me
It
through.
is.
Walk me through walking through the front door to see all your pals there, and they're here to watch you make your debut.
Yeah, it was kind of like what are you guys doing here? Because I didn't even think they knew that I wrestled. I mean, they knew that I wrestled and they knew I was on Impact and everything, but I didn't know they knew that the day was or whatever. But they were all there, and I kind of just was like, oh, wait, you guys are here to watch me, and it's just you just love it, right? It's one of those moments in your life that you're just like, oh man, maybe I am doing something really cool, and it's cool to have people that care about you and think that you are a superstar. They saw you when you weren't, so and now that they see you are one, it's still it's surreal to me. It's something that I'll never take for granted. It's something that I'll never even truly wrap my head around. So.
I want you, on behalf of CCP Podcasting, I want you to tell the missus that we said thank you for that, because that right there, That is love. That is what that is. And it's a beautiful thing to see, and it's a beautiful thing to hear, especially like John just said, having that good support system. Because yes, you are missing a lot, and what people may not understand, you're a father, so you are also having to miss out on other things that may be going on with your kids. And I'm not a parent. I mean, I have my dogs, but I count those as kids.
Yeah, those fur
But I have
babies.
my fur babies. But I don't have kids, and I can only imagine what those sacrifices are like. And yes, unless you're there and you're in the moment, like you're not really going to understand what that sacrifice means. And having that support system there is critical. And I think that I think it's a beautiful thing to see. That's my rant.
Yeah, I mean, it's it is that one's probably the hardest sacrifice to make, right? Like going every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, maybe even a Friday, like going every weekend. I mean, leave to leave your child, and it's something that I'm still kind of adapting and learning because we just had our first child and our second child, so we're two under two, so it hasn't been too long. But I like I'll never forget the first day, like when I was pulling out of the driveway to go to a show on the weekend, and my screen door was open, and my son was at the door, kind of banging on the window, like like crying almost, like please don't go. It sucks. It sucks because you just want him to come with you, and you want them to be with you every step of the way. But obviously, they're too small to do that right now. But I know that one day, like I will reach that mountaintop that I want to reach, and he'll be able to tell all of his friends at school and like be like, yeah, that's my dad, and it'll happen one day. It just has to. I just have to make those sacrifices right now. I miss out on a little bit of stuff, but it's gonna happen, and I truly believe it. So it does suck, like you said. It's one of the harder sacrifices to make, but it'll get better.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Like I say, my analogy, and some people will get it, and some people won't. My analogy when it comes to professional wrestling is the equivalent of like the Shawshank Redemption, where Andy Dufresne crossed through a river of shit, but sometimes you can come out cleaner on the other side. That's professional wrestling. Like that to a degree on the independent scene. You have to get out there and grind. You have to get out there and hustle. You have to get out there and make your presence felt. Because if you don't, nobody's going to do it for you. And
Absolutely.
when you're this is your main source of income and this is what you do, that is what separates the major players from the weekend warriors, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like you said, like if you're not going out there to grind like you're supposed to, somebody else is, and then you get lost in the weeds, and get lost in the shuffle, and then you're not as important anymore. And then it's like, well, is it like what are you doing, right? So you have to be grinding every single day, every single week. Like people forget, like yeah, shows are on the weekends, but there's stuff that you can be doing during the week, whether it be training, whether it be lifting, whether it be your diets, whether it be just contacting other promotions so you can get that brand exposure. And sometimes you kind of get in a little bit of a lull. That's what wrestling is. There is so many ups and downs and twists and turns. Like it really is a roller coaster of an effect. Like I mean, just in my short span of a career so far, like you have highs of being in Impact and then being let go and kind of figuring it out from there, and then you kind of dip and you go like kind of stagnant. And it's like there's just so many different things, like, right? So you just got to continuously grind and know at the end that your hard work will pay off.
Oh, for sure, 100%. John, let me come back around to you.
You have a you've got a very unique personality in the ring and a connection to the fans and the way that you are and the thing that you present and portray to the crowd. What was it that brought that about? Was that always where you were headed with it, or has this become something over time, or how did you come to be where you're at with this?
Yeah,
Because the
that's a great.
character work.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. Like that's a great question. And truthfully, like I bet you may have heard this before from everybody else, but like really my character is 1000% authentically me, right? Like who I am in that ring and who I portray is just who I am outside of the ring, right? Like I just turn it up to a million, right? So I love doing quirky dances. I love flaunting my sweet hair, like flexing a lot. Like that's just who I am. I love drinking beer. I love drinking alcohol. Like I love having a good time partying. Like that's just who I am outside of the ring. I just turn it up to 1,000 when I'm inside the ring. And like from what you said, like it was never the idea. I never thought like, oh, hey, I'm just gonna be myself inside the ring. You know, when you start wrestling, you have all these ideas. Oh, I want to be this character or this character, and so many different kind of pathways. But ultimately, the best advice and best thing that I've ever done is just be me. You know,
Well,
it's like
I've always felt like the best character, quote unquote, is being yourself. Or having that happy medium of a blend. I always did the same thing. Like I tried different characters, and again, we're talking '99. It's a whole different era and a whole different time frame. You have to get a DeLorean to go back to those days. But it's to see the trials and tribulations. Like I found it easier at one point in time. I was just like, it's just not me. It's not authentic.
So, luxurious locks. As a long-haired individual myself, I absolutely understand how that can influence your not just the way you act in the ring, but the way that you are, like the gimmick that you build. Have you ever had anybody have you had fan interactions about it? Are there any like unique stories?
How did it come about? Let's go.
Yeah,
let's just get to
what,
the meat of it.
What brought that about?
Because I put your hair on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I told you this before we went on the air. And I know that we have friends in Australia who watch all of these. And down under, you're watching. I know you are. I put his hair on the same level as yours. And I mean that as the highest compliment ever.
See, unfortunately, I will probably look him up after this, but I've never seen him, so
I will send it. You don't have to look. I'll send it to you. Don't worry.
Yeah,
about
he'll
it.
send you.
I got you.
But no, yeah, So if you've seen me before, I was buzz cut, right? I had that John Cena-esque prototype haircut. That's what I rocked with. I know you could never imagine it because look at how beautiful this luscious locks are. But yeah, I was a John Cena prototype haircut, basically like generic wrestler number one. So, and I never had any ambitions to grow out my hair or anything like that. I didn't really care for it. It wasn't until 2019, the fall of 2019, right after a country concert up in Detroit or Brooklyn, Michigan. It's called Faster Horses. Me and all of my buddies, we all go up there and we get rowdy. We drink some beers and do some stupid stuff, jump through tables, you name it, right? And we go up there and we just enjoy country music. Well, after the 2019 one, we decided, hey, what if we all grew our hair out into mullets? Wouldn't that be the sickest thing ever? Right? And like we all kind of said, yeah, let's do it. So the whole group was going to grow out mullets and rock it at the 2020 Faster Horses event in August. And we started growing them out in like November of 2019. And it got all the way till January. And like every one of my friends just bailed on me. Like all of them. They all just bailed. I was like, I ain't doing it. Actually, I'm sorry. Let me correct that. One of my buddies who actually still has the haircut with me today. And honestly, if I showed you a picture of him, you'd be like, wait, is he your twin? He's not my twin, but he does rock it with me still today. But he is one of the buddies that actually stayed on it. 1 out of like 15. Right?
Here's to the 1 out of 15. Like,
the ride or die. That's right.
My boy Reno. His name's Reno. He's the guy. But yeah, it was January, and that was when they announced the lineup for Faster Horses, and it was by far, and that's one thing that I'm really passionate about. I love music, right? Like I'm so passionate about music. Country, is my favorite, but I love all kinds of music. But they announced in January the lineup, and I saw the lineup, and I was so ecstatic. I was like, "Oh, we're gonna be rocking mullets to this lineup." Literally, my favorite lineup of all time. Like, I was so pumped. And then COVID hit, and they canceled the whole show. Depressed by it because I was so upset that I was missing this. And once, like, kind of they canceled it, my other buddy who did stay with me with the mullet, we were kind of deciding, like, what do we do? Do we let it keep growing? Like, do we just wait till the next year? We finally came to the conclusion that we would just wait until the whole next year to rock it at the next year's one. And then it kind of struck my interest because I kind of saw on Instagram or TikTok or whatever I saw on Instagram Reel or something like that there was this guy with a mullet, because back then they were just starting to kind of come back. I saw this dude with a mullet, and he had the party part of it curled up. Like, it was, I don't know if it was permed, it could have been permed, but it was just really curly in the back, but super flat and straight up here. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, I kind of like those curls because I have naturally straight hair. Like that, it's disclaimer, this is all perm. So it's, I have as straight hair as you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's pretty crazy.
I just wish I could grow it.
There's some there. Hey, there's some there. Yeah, so I saw somebody had the party length all permed up, and it looked sweet. And I went up to my mom, who is my hairdresser. I've never paid for a haircut, a perm, or nothing. This is her finest work, I always tell everybody. But yeah, I went up to my mom. I was like, "Hey, what if we permed my hair?" And she's like, "You want to perm your hair?" And I was like, "Yeah, wouldn't it be cool?" And she said, "I mean, maybe." And she was like, "What, do you just want to do the back half?" I was like, "No, let's do the whole thing."
The whole thing. Go big or go home, baby.
The whole thing. And like at this time, like my hair did not have the length. It was probably like this long. Like it was probably this.
Still a baby mullet.
Yeah, it was just a little baby mullet. But I will never forget it. My mom permed it for the first time, and she literally was sitting there crossing her legs, laughing so hard she almost pissed herself. It was to her, it was so funny. And I looked at myself in the mirror, I'm like, damn, I look sweet. Like, I was like, this is awesome. And like,
yeah, meanwhile, your mom's having flashbacks to high school.
She's literally laughing so hard she's peeing herself, and I'm like sitting there like checking myself out, like, man, I love myself. This is awesome. And now every 3 to 4 months we do the same thing, and it gets a little bit longer and a little bit more curlier, and I think the same thing every time I look in the mirror. I'm like, whoo. I always come home to my wife and I'm like, "Hey, you like this? It looks pretty good, don't it? It looks pretty good, hey, don't it?"
Our fondest thank yous to Mama Bill for taking care of the hair, because I'm telling you, dude, it is one of those things. That was one of the first things, obviously, I noticed when I saw you come out on Emerge, and I don't want to sound like an ignorant individual here by any means, but that was the first time that I had saw you until I went back and I started saying, "Oh, he was at TNA for this period of time," because TNA is not on television where I'm at in Florida. It's on. I recently discovered it on Roku at some point. So like I was like, well, let me go back and start really researching and doing really do my homework. And one of the first things I saw was you strutting ass like you're cock of the walk, and those locks are just a flowing, man. And it's almost infectious, because like if you're feeling yourself how can the crowd not feel it with you? Like, it's just you have that energy with it. You own it. You take possession of the fucking room when you walk through the door or you come out through the curtain, and it's off to the races.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, like I know when I walk through the door and there's a group of people, like, I know I catch people's attention, and that's something that I love. I love the attention. I mean, I wouldn't be a professional wrestler if I didn't love the attention.
Facts.
It's great. I call it my helmet of permed goodness. So.
It's doing the thing, man. It's one of those things. I'm telling you, I'm gonna send you some down under stuff, and you're gonna be like, "Yep, I got you. I know what you're talking about."
We might have to have a hair versus hair match, but
I don't know if either one of you would be wanting to get rid of your locks. I don't know if there's
we wouldn't cut it. We would just straighten it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might work. That's something we might be able to sell for sure. Let's put the money up and make it happen, right? Um, John, what else you got? What's your next question?
Well, so you spent actually several years doing the preliminary training and before you opened up into multiple places and really spread yourself out and went full time. What was one of the things that really took time for you in your training phases to grasp all of a sudden? Like, was it the mic work or the action of wrestling training, or how was the physicality of it? I know you said you were interested in things, but were you an athlete in high school before? Was there a tie-in to that kind of thing? What was hard for you coming into training?
I would definitely say the mic work. More so, it was the confidence in the mic work.
Right.
I mean, I can, like I said, like who I am as a person is who I am outside of the ring. Obviously, I'm weathered and learned a little bit more and everything like that, and know more one-liners and things, and kind of that work. But ultimately, I have my own funny sayings that I've said for years and years and years. But it was more so the confidence when I'm holding the mic rather than actually what to say. Um, that was kind of the biggest hurdle to take when I first joined wrestling. And I mean, I still struggle with it to this day, right? Like, what if I say something and get no reaction? It's definitely something that always eats at my nerves. But I think that I'm confident now in myself, and I'm such a character as it is that I can go out there and say whatever comes to mind. I'm either going to get you to boo me, or I'm either going to get you to cheer me. And it's one way or the other. But as far as like physicality wise in the ring, it really felt like I transitioned pretty well. I was an athlete in high school. Uh, I'm a pretty decent athlete at kind of anything that I do. The only thing I suck at is basketball. I've just never been good at basketball, but that's because I never played it. But I was an all district football player. I played baseball as well. I was on the bowling team. Like, I really have a pretty long, lengthy sport background, which, like I said, really did help transfer into all the physicality and stuff that goes into being a professional wrestler. So that stuff never really kind of altered anything that I did. I would just say more so the character work and the mic work was kind of the biggest hurdle for me coming in. I never really did anything like theatrical or talk or anything like that in the podcast.
Well, and that's funny because, like, when through the time that we've been doing this, we talk to a lot of people, and you either see them come from the athletic background and make a transition in wrestling that way, or you see them come from the theater background and make a transition in that way. But you rarely see them do both ends, and it's usually one or the other, and the other part is usually the one that is hard for them to pick up. How did you get over that? How did you become, how even now you said you struggle with your confidence sometimes as a full-time worker now? How do you overcome that on a day-to-day and maintain you doing the character that you do, because the work that you do sometimes is pretty wild? So it's like, how do you get into this larger than life mode,
Yeah,
and forget that you don't always have that confidence about you?
yeah. I mean, I think it goes back to what I kind of talked about earlier with Chris Bay, right? If if I'm going out there and I have to talk on the mic, like with like out there in the ring, like I just remind myself, like I do this, like this is what I do. Like that's kind of something that I always kind of fall back on, and when I'm feeling a little bit like low on self confidence. But also, like I said, like it's more so just believing in myself and kind of one of those moments back when I was kind of just, it was back when 2019 kind of was rolling around when I first started the Perminator kind of character. I
The
would,
Perminator. You said the Perminator.
yeah, that's my
Yeah,
name. You didn't
yeah,
know
yeah,
that?
yeah.
I did
That
not
is one
know
of the
that. That is the
monikers.
first time that it's been mentioned on this show for sure. I'm out. That
Oh
That is
yeah,
perfect.
John. I didn't know you didn't know that it was the Perminator gimmick.
I did not.
Yeah.
That
No,
is
it's not a gimmick.
absolutely
It's a
fabulous.
thing.
No, I know. I get it. You are the Perminator. I understand.
The croc rocking, Nickelback popping curls for all the girls. The
Yeah.
Perminator
That is
Sam.
perfect.
But yeah, like I back in 2019, like when I first came up with this character, like I wholeheartedly would sit in my car and cut promos on Snapchat in like just right to myself. And I would send them to whoever I wanted to, and I'd be like, "Oh, what do you think about this? Like, does this sound cool?" And that's kind of, and they're like, they would give me critiques on there. So yeah, that's just like
What
I know a
fucking
lot of
tool
people.
that is. That
Yeah,
sounds awesome, man. We were wasting VHS tapes and handy cams when we were trying to learn promos.
yeah, no, we're very fortunate. We got Snapchat, and it's cool. You can watch it back, and it's just you. It's awesome.
Let me ask you
But
this.
yeah,
Oh, go ahead. No, sorry. Go ahead. If you were going,
I was just gonna conclude and say like, yeah, that's kind of what I would do to practice. I know a lot of people use like looking in the mirror or whatever it may be, but I like doing Snapchat because it's something that I can rewatch and be like, oh, that sounds good. Let's do this instead, something like that. But yeah, it's a growing confidence. It's something that I can continue to this day. So.
I think everybody has comes across those issues with levels of confidence, especially being in professional wrestling. And it's just one of those things that you either can deal with or you can't. And you have to find ways through it. So it's good to know that you have that fallback and you have that. This is what I do. Something that or when I say we, it's John and I, and of course our channel. When we were watching back the spotlight show that we did on you, one of the things that I look for when I'm watching back these matches, because again they're random. I don't watch them before I put them on the show. It is something that we legitimately are watching for the first time and reacting to as we're watching it with our channel, right? You have an ability to really get your audience, and then by audience, whatever crowd you're in front of, because a piece of the videos that we see, not only does it give us more of your work, it gives us opponents that you've been in the ring with, different companies that we haven't seen before, maybe haven't seen before, and it turns us on into different avenues to go down with independent wrestling because it's so broad. You have this ability to hold the audience and get the audience in the palm of your hand. Whether you're playing a babyface or whether you're playing a heel, you have this ability to connect in a way that I'm not going to say that a lot of people don't, because I know it's going to sound kind of dickish, but it's not.
It's a unique pulse figure. Like you have your finger on the pulse of what the crowd is doing at any moment and can really pull that string at ease. It seems like.
And then my question piece of it, before you answer anything, is from your perspective, being in ring and being in front of this crowd. What is your preference? Do you prefer to be cheered? Do you prefer to be booed, or does it fucking matter? Do you just read the room and just go?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I go, right? Like, obviously, you have kind of what the promoter and or the boss man kind of wants you to be.
Yeah, sure.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, like I'm just gonna go out there and be me, and I'm gonna either make you hate me or I'm gonna make you cheer me. And it's like you said, like I do sometimes feel like I have my finger on their pulse, so I kind of know what they want to do and like what they want to see. So it is a cool tool and cool aspect that I have of my with my character and my in-ring work. And I don't think I really have a preference. I just like going out there and doing it, right? And whether you want me to be the baby face or whether you want me to be the bad guy, I'm going to just go out there and be me, be authentic, and create that connection. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with a guy named Joe Dombrowski, but he used to commentate for like Ring of Honor and a lot of the other different companies, like MLW, things like that. But I kind of have known him from the beginning of my kind of days in the business. He would come around NOW when we would run shows and kind of help out in some regards. It was a couple months ago, maybe in October, I believe. Yeah, I think it was in October. We were on a show, TSW, down in Brazil, Indiana, and he kind of just told me, he's like, 'cause I asked him, I always like I said, I always ask for feedback, whether it be in ring work, character work, whatever it may be. And he was like, "Man, Sam, like you just have such a unique way of connecting with the fans. Like it doesn't matter who you're in front of, you just have a very unique way to connect with them, and it's something that you should cherish. Try to figure out how it happens and what you need to do to kind of zero in on it and make that kind of your staple. It was a cool thing to hear because, like I said, he's been around for like the majority of my career, but also like it kind of was a little bit validating as well. Like it was very validating, like feeling like I do have that connection. It is something. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if it's the cool hair or if I don't like it's because I don't look like a typical action figure professional wrestler, or if it's like but it's something. It's something. It's something that I'm gonna keep trying to like figure out and learn and go from there.
No,
I don't even know that.
Go ahead,
I don't
Sam.
even know that you need to figure it out. I think you've nailed it. I think it's just you and the way that you interact with the crowd. And I agree 100%. The way that you come off with them, whether they like you or they hate you, it doesn't seem to matter. It's the fact that you're connected with them as tightly as you are, and you get them wound up one way or the other, just really easy. You've got your finger on it, and I don't know that you need to practice it or figure it out. I think you've already done it. I think it's just naturally occurring. And you pull it off very well. It seems very smooth. And, a lot of guys wish that you could teach that, but you can't teach that.
No, you can't.
With 2025 just really getting started, what are some of the things that you're looking to try and get done, professionally?
Yeah. So every single year, I like to sit down and write down realistic goals. Right. Like, yeah, it's something I always like to do. I am slacking this year. I haven't wrote down any of them yet. I do have a couple of them up here, but it's something I like to do is like writing them down just because then you can reflect like at the end of the year and kind of see what ones were obtained and what ones were not. Unfortunately, I think last year I did miss out on a couple, more than a couple. I'd say more than I'd like to. And I can make excuses like I had a child and I got married, but it's just I didn't obtain those goals, and it is what it is. But this year, I definitely am going to reach for the stars and keep going. Some of the things I really want to do, like the biggest one on my list, is I really want to wrestle overseas. I got my passport last year, and I was able to wrestle in Canada, and that's really awesome. Like being able to say like I'm an international superstar is cool. Now it's time to take that next step and go over the pond. Like that's something that I'm very intrigued by.
Where would you like to get to?
I was about to say, I've got my fingers in the UK. I can definitely get you in touch with some promoters. And Gary Ward is a guy. I don't know if you've reached out to him or not yet. He's who I see a lot of the guys from the States linking up with for international stuff. But we can definitely give you some information as well.
I appreciate that, and we will definitely exchange that. I actually have talked to Gary. I actually talked to him today about some stuff. So we're kind of getting the logistics a little bit kind of squared away, and hopefully that kind of is something that happens.
He's
Yeah,
the guy.
he is the man. I appreciate him even like talking to me about it. So it is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, obviously I'd like to go to. I've never been overseas, so you name it, right? I'll go to England. I'll go to France. I'll go to Japan. I'll go to Australia. I'll go anywhere. I will wrestle. I mean, I know it's very cliche and everybody says it, but I've never been over there. So I'll take any country, any different country that I can get because it is one of the cooler things that we get to do as a wrestler.
If you had an international style choice to participate in, what do you look forward to the most? Because everywhere's got their own kind of flavor to it. What do you think would be most interesting for you to explore style-wise?
I think Japan. I think I kind of fit what they like. Just big beefy dudes going at it.
Ready for the strong style, huh?
Yeah, I think they like that, and I think that'd be something that'd be really cool to do. And yeah, I think that would probably be where I'd lean. I don't mind the catch style of like England or Europe. Like that kind of is intriguing as well. I feel like I'm not as proficient as I should be if I wanted to go do that kind of stuff. But it is really fun to watch. But yeah, I'd definitely say Japan. I think I'd fit that mold pretty well right now. But yeah,
Well, that's interesting to hear. Yeah, we'll definitely give you some information too. If you make get a schedule together, I'm sure that you'll be able to fill some dates. That's not going to be a problem. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there because I didn't know that you were looking to do international stuff, or I'd have fucking sent you something privately and said, here to talk to this company, this company, and this
yeah.
company. Tell them I sent you.
Definitely. Like I said, when I got my passport, like it was mainly for going to Canada. But then once I kind of got that taste of getting into Canada, and I've got a couple more dates up in Canada here coming soon.
You're like, oh, I like this road thing. I want to do it more.
Yeah, it was like, okay, this is cool. And that's one thing that I'll say while we're on the topic before I go into some of the other goals. Like, the one thing that I will, if you ever ask me, like, I don't know if this is one of your guys' questions, so spoiler if we go into it or whatnot. What's like my favorite thing about wrestling and what my least favorite thing about wrestling, ironically enough, they are the same thing. It's traveling. I
No,
absolutely
that's a legitimate answer.
like
Legitimate answer all around.
I hate it. Like I dislike sitting in a car for X amount of hours. My back hurts. I'm tired of just focusing on the road. Like I want to play on my phone or watch something or read something. Like it sucks. And then like we talked about earlier, like getting away from your family and missing all these things. Like I hate it. But at the end of the day, like freaking love it, dude. Like I love it. Like going to different places that I would never have imagined seeing in my entire life because I'm going to do what I do. Right? Like for an example, like the one always sticks with me. Have you guys ever heard of a place called Altoona, Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay, well, when I didn't know this place even
I'm
existed.
from a small town up there, so I have absolutely been to Altoona.
Yeah, well, I'm from a small town next to Toledo, so I'm from Rossford, Ohio. But I know all about the small towns. But yeah, like I got booked for a show in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and I'm like, what is this, right? And me and my wife went out there and we drove around the city and we're like, this is the coolest little town you've ever seen. And it's just like, it's stuff like that, right? Like I get to go see so many different things all over the world. And like I said, I never would have done it without wrestling. So like I said, it's the coolest thing, but it's also the worst thing. It's just awesome.
Blessing and a curse. That's the
I 100% agree.
that's the nature of the beast, man. What other kind of goals do you have other than maybe doing some international stuff? Because I think by the end of 2025 you'll be able to cross that off your list.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my head. When I put my head to something, I'm gonna make it happen. But some of the other goals, I mean, I really would like to get back to whether it be TNA or NWA. I really like to start working on TV again by the end of the year, and it doesn't have to be at a full-time rate. Just kind of some stuff here or there. I was able to get some stuff last year with AEW. Some really cool moments there. I wouldn't mind going back there as well, kind of getting some bigger roles and something like that. But that's one of my goals. Another goal of mine is to train at least once a month or once a week or something along those lines. I'll say at least twice a month is a better realistic goal for me. Like train actually in the ring and not just on the road and everything. But training, it does kind of, I have had to sacrifice training when I've had having two children and having to do everything and stuff like that. I have been missing out on a little bit of training, but back this year, I want to get back into it a little bit more and kind of keep honing my craft. And with our training school, we have students, so being able to help them kind of along the way as well. A couple other goals, I want to wrestle in more states, at least cross out 3 or 4 different new states. One of my long-term goals is to wrestle in all 50 states. So I want to take a little bit of a dent off that. And then, and then just also by the end of the year, I want to have at least 52 matches or at least 52 events that are to wrestle at.
Gonna return back to your 2019 numbers.
Hey, I'll do it. I mean, I have no shame there. I'll definitely do that. Yes. So yeah, I want to definitely reach at least 52 matches this year or 52 events in terms of being on the road a lot. But yeah, those are kind of some of my goals, and we'll go from there.
Go ahead, John.
So you were talking about while you're talking about your goals, you're talking about you wanted to get back on television. What do you feel like because the industry isn't the way it used to be? When we were bouncing around 20 years ago, the only way to get TV time at all was to get through the mainstream and to get a contract somewhere big and find somebody that was doing television or produce it yourself and pay for public access or whatever the number of ways that it was done back in the day. But now with the advent of streaming content and the internet and all of the tools that are out there right now, social media platforms, what I sometimes wonder about, while you're inside the industry and you're doing work, is there a difference for you on like getting on a mainstream TV platform or getting onto an indie somewhere that has a streaming service or has an online presence? What do you think about the industry's movement in that field and the new avenues that you can get in the industry now that we didn't have options for 20 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're very, very blessed to have all this, right? I think the biggest thing is like obviously you'll have your upper echelon TV companies like your WWEs, your AEWs, your TNAs, your things like that. Like you're I feel as a wrestler, you're always kind of reaching for that because those are kind of some statuses that you'll be able to secure a contract that that is good money.
Guaranteed.
Something that's guaranteed money. It's good for you, and you can use it as a living. Um, I think the benefit though for us wrestlers all over the world with the streaming services and the YouTubes and all these other indies that do all the recording is that we now have that ability to practice working for a TV company. Like when you go to a show and it's a good indie show, you're gonna have 3 to 4 roaming cameras with a hard cam. So you're gonna be able to practice working the hard cam and working the cameras. Obviously, you're gonna work the crowd and make them feel involved. But you also can lean towards the roaming camera, so you can get some good footage and stuff like that. And not only is that like the only benefit, but you get good footage. Like you actually don't have to ask somebody else to video on your phone or like other things like that. You're gonna get good footage and you're gonna get commentary and it's gonna feel like a real life TV like TV produced thing. So it is great practice for a lot of the wrestlers. Um, and it's awesome, and I feel like it's always going to be changing, and there's going to be a new improvement in 20 more years. But for right now, like this is it's great.
We were talking a little bit earlier about Raw, or excuse me, WWE and Netflix, and so this was not what I brain farted earlier. Over 5 million people tuned into that, by the way. The initial Monday Night Raw on Netflix, which is insane.
I was one of them.
Insane. I was too for the main event. That one right
Yeah,
there
it's
got
pretty
me.
cool.
That one got me. This is my question for you, and then we'll go ahead. We'll start winding it up. And I know that if I feel like we left so much meat on the bone, but part of this or being organic with what we do and the conversations that we have is we never know where it takes us, and we just have a good time having the conversations as they go. But a beautiful thing about our platform is that we get to find and we get to discover, not necessarily discover, but that's not the word to use, but you guys get to find us finally, right? Um, if you could give me 5 names of people that I should be watching or we should be taking a look at, and it could be on the independent scene, because I mean we obviously watch the mainstream stuff. But maybe some hidden gems that that you would recommend for us to look at. I'll ask you that, and then I'll give you when you tell me, give me like three, or you don't have to give me five because this is on the spot question. But however many people you can kind of just give me, and I'll tell you why I asked you that once you give me the names.
One that jumps to my mind immediately. It's a tag team called the Slime Balls. I actually am going to whoop their tush on Saturday.
Asses
But they're
anyway.
great dudes. Eh. Yeah, I don't want. My mom can't see me cuss. She'll wash my mouth out with soap.
Yeah. We need her for the
I'm
perms.
joking.
Let's keep Mama Bill happy.
But yeah, the slime balls, they're with NWA right now. But they are just so unique and so creative and very good in the ring, and they're just awesome dudes as well. Definitely check them out. A guy by the name of Adam Wick. He's a Detroit guy. He's more local to Michigan, but he's got a lot of potential and a lot of great things in the ring. He just kind of needs those opportunities. Um, Alienated Youth. They're kind of some of our students over at Skull and Bones. They're guys that ride with me everywhere and anywhere. They're very, very raw and very, very green. They're probably the greenest people I'll give you on this list. But they definitely have something. I wouldn't, put my trademark on them or bring them everywhere and vouch my name for them if I didn't believe it. But yeah, they're coming in their own. Like I said, very raw, very new. But definitely someone to check out. Um, we'll go Lord Crew. Have you ever Lord Crew is
Mm.
he's actually had some stints in Japan. He's just an awesome badass, right? I didn't cuss earlier, but I cuss now because he is a badass. Like that's just who he is. He's really great. And then we'll go with Jason Hotch. He's one of my best friends inside and outside of the ring. I know you guys kind of saw the. I know you guys watched the match that we had, but he's really just incredible. He should
Several.
be everywhere all the time. Yeah.
Several. I've watched several of those matches, and the chemistry that you two have is something special when you're in the ring. That right there. I almost I almost started another fucking show. Excuse me, another show, as we do so many of them, called Rivalries, and that was the piece of it was just going to be on independent wrestling rivalries. And that's finding matches that have, you guys against each other. And Hotch and Beale is on my list when I get around to that project to shoot a rivalry show on. Just because the matches that I've seen, they're really good. Like they get, and it's all with how you work. And that's another piece of what when I was watching when we were doing your spotlight and really watching in 2 hours. So you get to see a lot is the chemistry that you have with people. I don't know how many of these guys you know or you don't know, but when you're in the ring with them, and I know that there had to be one or two that were on that show that were pretty green, but you couldn't really tell because of the way that you were working with them. And it's just something that it's another little nuance that I look for when I'm watching professional wrestling. And you nailed it. You have this ability not only to connect with the crowd, but you also have the ability to make sure that what you're doing in the ring is not only beneficial for you, but beneficial for who you're in the ring with. And in a world in a business that's very selfish, that's a very non-selfish approach, and I can appreciate it. And if no one else has told you, I will tell you thank you for that because it's not something that you see every day.
I, Thank you. Honestly, like that really means a world to me. It is something that I take a lot of pride in. I feel like obviously you have your buddies in wrestling and you have your people that are your kind of crew. But outside of that, I try to keep my life in wrestling is my life in wrestling, and then I like to keep my life outside of wrestling. So I don't really like to get caught up in making a bunch of friends. Like I'll be cool with people and things like that, but I don't just give out my phone number or whatever to anybody. So yeah, a lot of the people that I work with are very new. Like I never have met them or I've never wrestled them or anything like that. So to hear that and kind of put that into perspective, it is really cool, and it's a good validation for me. It makes me proud. So thank you.
No, no, thank you, because it's definitely been a pleasure to sit down and just have you for the length of time that we have, just to pick your brain and have a conversation about wrestling and things that you're doing, and really how we came across you. And it's a beautiful thing to see, and it's just one of those things that it will always take me back to the channel of professional wrestling can bring people. It can bring people together. So I thank you for your time today, and I know that John does as well.
Definitely do. Definitely do. Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's really glad that you guys do what you do and allow us to have an opportunity to have this amazing industry to entertain us all. And the fact that we still get to look at it this many years after we've come out of the ring and see new and upcoming things, the joy that we get from maybe finding something that we hadn't found before or discovering. I think discovery is the best term for it. We get to go out here and discover all of these diamonds just laying in the sands of the independent uh, uh, beaches, and it's like, wow, there's a lot out here, and when we get to stumble across something that we truly do appreciate, it makes us happy to still be involved with the industry. So it's entirely you guys. If you guys out there have not done so already, you can follow all of the links down below. Make sure you get over to Sam Beale stuff, because the easiest way to help support independent wrestlers is to like and share their product. It doesn't cost you a dime. Maybe you can't get to a show, maybe you don't live nearby, maybe you can't buy a t-shirt, but maybe one of your friends can. And if you share the links out, you get to send out the things that you're watching, the things that interest you. Maybe one of your friends can support, can go to a show, can buy a ticket, and that is how we keep the industry alive and well and healthy.
Mr. Bill, you got anything you want to say to the peoples before we close it out?
Yeah, absolutely. Like he said, like go follow me. The bandwagon is open. Come on, we want you on the backpack, on the perm pack. We're going to the moon, baby. Like it's not gonna stop. Like I am so devoted to being the best professional wrestler, not only that I can be, but in the world. Right, I'm never gonna stop. So follow me on social media. I usually post a lot of matches, a lot of clips from matches. I'd love to see you out of the show. If you ever are at one of the shows that I'm at, come up to my merch table. Tell me you saw me on this podcast, and it'll warm my heart. And one last big, huge thing I'd like to mention is go Detroit Lions. Let's go win ourselves a first ever Super Bowl, baby.
I,
Maybe one,
I,
maybe
I,
if any year this is it, right?
I
Hey,
know.
we gotta believe. We gotta believe.
I noticed the time on the show, and I was like, "Fuck, I can't bring up the Lions," but I'm glad that you did, because that is definitely a big thing. And as John said, guys, supporting is very simple. It doesn't cost you anything. It's been on the screen the whole time, right below Sam. It's right there. X and Instagram, Sam Beale 23. Over on Facebook, Sam Beale. If you can grab a T-shirt, head on over to Pro Wrestling Tees / Natural Sam Beale or The Natural Sam Beale, and you'll be able to buy a T-shirt. Any kind of support is huge for what these guys are out there doing. And keep in mind that if they're not out there getting in the ring, they're not out there dropping matches on their YouTube pages, or they're not out there giving you clips on the internet, then you don't know what's happening, and that's bad. It's just bad for everybody. The independent wrestling world is so deep right now with talent. You're doing yourself a disservice. Go out there and subscribe, share. Sam, it has been an absolute pleasure, sir. I'm so glad that we got to spend a little bit of time with you, and I hope that we made your night a little bit easier and a lot more fun. It has definitely been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. And, I'm so glad that our paths cross. And honestly, you said there's a lot left on the table. Well, guess what? Bring me back.
Hey,
Absolutely.
that door's
I'm a short,
open.
direct message away.
That is absolutely correct, and I'll hold you to that, my man. We'll get you on a live stream, and we'll get Max in chat, and
Oh, heck yeah.
he'll dig that. We'll see what we can do for sure. We'll definitely be in touch. John, you want to take us home?
Absolutely, guys and gals. It's been a pleasure. You guys know where those savage elbows go. Right there on the ding bell, so you never miss a beat. What we got going on behind the curtain. We got new shows, new things, new guests, new ideas, always coming down the pipeline. As always, ladies and gentlemen, we love each and every one of your faces, and we'll see you next time.